You're right.
Pretty sure it was that, right? Well, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, 2 weeks,
Yeah.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
That was, application 286, not 285.
I think it's messy sex. You missed March 5th. Yeah, that's,
That's 6?
it is.
I agree.
Yes.
Now we gotta have a whole stream of initials
Sorry.
behind.
No, I just didn't bring
It
it.
was, it is a 6, it's a messy 6, I'm left-handed, I'm sorry.
Okay, as long as you
I listened to the whole thing.
you're involved in
Thank you.
the whole thing.
Painstakingly?
And the keys don't bother me. I heard you.
Oh, yeah,
But
well,
anyhow.
You know,
Are you being sarcastic?
No, it didn't bother me.
Recording?
Wait, thank you for not doing.
6 o'clock.
You used to have a wooden gavel. that
Oh.
you would-
Oh, we have it.
Oh, no, no.
Yeah, it's a
not
little,
that.
the little toy one.
No.
Yeah. Hold on, these all shut off.
Oh.
Yeah, do not do that. We're talking about breaking my eardrums, listening to this tape with headphones on.
To just imagine what goes to the.
Good evening.
On the 06.
This is the March 19th, 2025 meeting of the Town of Newry, Maine Planning Board. This meeting will come to order. My name is Ted Baker, and I am the chairperson for the board. This is a public proceeding, and you, the public, have the right to hear everything that's being said unless the board votes to enter into executive session for Maine's Freedom of Access Act. You have the right to review any of the material created or received by the board that relate to the board's deliberation, unless state law makes that document confidential. Please notify the board if you are unable to hear or if you would like to access any material. Tonight's meeting is being audio recorded. If you would like or need access to this or previous meeting audio recordings, please see the town administrator. I would also like to welcome Western Hills Access Television and its viewers. Everybody wave. For those of you in attendance, if you have not done so, please sign in at this time.
He did. Oh. Are you staying?
Huh?
Are you staying?
For a little while.
Sign in, please, sir.
Thank you, Joelle.
Yep.
This is a working session of the planning board. Maine Freedom of Access Law entitles the public to attend the meeting, take notes of the meeting, and make an audio or video recording of the meeting. The board's policy is not to allow public comment during the meeting. However, as chairperson, I may allow exceptions when it is in the interest of the board. An example of an exception would be to allow an abutter to address the board. By Newry's planning board bylaws, this meeting may not last more than 2.5 hours. The meeting may be extended by 30-minute increments if a motion to extend with a pro vote is made for each 30-minute increment. If the meeting is not extended, any remaining agenda items or discussions will be tabled at that time. Tonight's agenda includes the following business: W.H.A.T Development LLC application for a minor subdivision on Monkey Brook Road. The application number is 25-285. Timberline TH LLC application for a site plan and subdivision on Timberline Road, application number 25-286. Prior to attending to the above business, the board must first conduct some administrative procedures, the first of which is attendance. Per section 2.b of the Newry Planning Board Ordinance, amended June 8, 2021, the board is made up of 3 voting members and 2 alternate members. In order for the meeting to proceed, I must first establish that a quorum is present. A quorum consists of 2 voting members. The voting members of the board are myself, Ted Baker, Bruce Pierce, Vice Chair, and John Gooch-Gathier, Secretary. We have 3 voting members of the board present, and therefore we do have a quorum. We also have present tonight Meredith Herrick, alternate, and Rob Cates, alternate. Good evening to all of you, if I have not said good evening to you. Having ascertained that we have a quorum, I will now move on to reviewing voting eligibility. A voting member that was absent for the previous meeting is not eligible to vote on old business unless they have completed an affidavit stating that they have reviewed the material for the missed meeting, read the draft minutes, and have listened to the audio recording of the meeting. All three voting members of the board were present at the last meeting. We have one alternate that was not, and you have done the affidavit, which I commend you for, because as an alternate, you did not have to, but hopefully we don't have to call on you to fill in later on. Having reviewed voting eligibility, I will now move on to the minutes of the prior meeting. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes of the prior meeting?
Yes.
Good.
Rob, do you have any comments?
Nope.
Meredith? Gooch?
Looks good to me.
Bruce?
There's up on the board with me.
I will therefore entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of the March 5th, 2025 meeting of the Newry Planning Board.
I will second that motion.
A motion to approve has been the minutes as drafted for the March 5th meeting has been properly seconded. Are there any discussions to be had? Hearing no discussions, I will take a vote on approving the minutes as written.
1,
2,
3, the minutes have been approved unanimously. Let's move on to business now. First on the docket is W.H.A.T Development LLC, Monkey Brook Road subdivision, application number 25285.
We didn't do this correspondence.
If I look at the. All right, before we go on to tonight's business, we have correspondence. Everybody should have received correspondence from Perkin Thompson, the town attorney, an email stream, the latest being March 10th, I believe, and with which was the date that the code enforcement officer forwarded to the board. Does everybody have that email stream?
Yep.
Okay. We will discuss the email stream in detail later. Everybody should also have an engineering review memorandum from Goro Palmer, dated March 17th, subject minor subdivision application. Everybody have that? And we will discuss that in detail later on. I think that's all the correspondence that's come in since March 5th, is that correct, Joel?
Correct. Unless you wanna be a butter?
Did we introduce this previously or not?
I didn't know anything about it.
Okay. For the record, we also have a telephone voicemail stream
Look,
and email
thank you.
from a Tama Drown of 5 Deer Run Road, in relation to public comment on the application for Monkey Brook Road, and we will set that aside until we review public comments. And Becky, I think you do have a copy of this now.
I have it here, yeah. Yep.
All right. Okey dokey, moving right along. In a previous meeting, particularly on February 19th of this year, we discussed application 25285. We determined the type of review. We determined that the planning board has jurisdiction. We determined that the applicant has proof of ownership. We determined that the presenter has been assigned an agency by the applicant, which is Mainland Development. We determined that none of the planning board members have a conflict of interest, either financially or biased towards the applicant in the project. We did apply an additional fee to cover the cost of consultations for the board from its engineer and legal representative. Mainland had a
Yeah.
chance to present their proposed development. We informed the applicant of submission deadlines for revised or new documents and plans. We determined that the application fee had been paid. We gave it a file number, and we also found Form 10.2 to be complete. I will therefore, since that, we have received a package from Mainland supplying the information that was deemed missing. At this point, I would like to discuss Form 10.1.
You got the new package from him?
I think you should.
Yeah, I didn't give it to Becky, sorry.
I need to find the
Yep.
box.
Does everybody have the cover letter from Mainland dated March 7th, where it summarizes the material that was being submitted or revised?
I do.
I know.
You know the cover letter? In front of that? Oh, you did you get it back?
No, he did not, John didn't get it either,
Oh.
because he didn't answer my email.
While we're waiting for Gerald to get your package, John, would you please give us a mailing address in Portland that we can send via snail mail packages that we receive, so that we don't have to wait for you to come up here to pick it up?
Yes. That was my plan.
So, Joel, please make sure you get the snail mail address for John in Portland.
Yeah, John, I need your address.
Yeah, that was the plan.
Okay,
Like a bunch of maps. Did you get that?
They
they're
were,
attached. There's 11 by 17s on your plan, on your
Oh.
set.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
Okay,
John has a full set, he's got the
all right.
rest.
That, it just, it looked like I could see the big one there.
I'm older than you
are
are.
you jealous? Okay, on Form 10.1, we had stated that there's a lot of missing information on the articles of incorporation and information on the owners and et cetera. The applicant forwarded us a copy of the articles of incorporation, a copy of the corporate standing, which was taken off of the Maine Secretary of State website, gave us a list of principles for 4J Development, and a letter from the principals of 4J Development stating that they did not have any interest in the budding properties. Does anybody have any comments, questions on that material?
Yep, looks good to me. A lot of reading.
That being said, I will entertain a motion that Form 10.1 is complete.
I will make a motion that Form 10.1 is complete.
I'll second the motion of 10.1 complete.
A motion has been made and properly seconded that Form 10.1 is complete. Any further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, I'll take a vote.
1,
2,
3. Form 10.1 has been found complete unanimously. Form 10.2, which I think we already had,
that
Yeah.
that was already found to be complete,
Yeah,
although, Rick, can you explain what's the typo that you found on there? A typo was found in the boundary survey of the existing parent parcel, which indicated the incorrect area of the parcel.
Yeah, I can't point to it specifically, unfortunately. I was just informed that they had found a typo and corrected it.
Okay, okay.
Was that the book?
No, that was the other application.
Okay. Never mind.
I know it's happening to me too. I apologize for the recorder, Rick Dunn with Mainland Development Consultants representing LLC.
Actually, I think there might be a typo on your letter. I think we're, instead of Form 10.2, I think there should be Form 10.3.
10.3, I think you're right, yeah. Apologize for that. Because 10.2 was.
Because 10.2 was approved at the last meeting, and we're talking about the parcel of land not to develop, okay.
So this should be 10.3 right here.
That should be 10.3 right there.
Oh, that makes a lot more sense now.
The location, footprint, area of height of abutting buildings, and did everybody see that nice color glossy that we got
Yep.
about that? And I didn't check, was there a paragraph written in the back or not? Gotta go back to Alice's restaurant for that one. Some people probably don't remember that.
I hear it every Christmas on the radio, but that's all I know about
Oh,
it.
no, Thanksgiving.
Oh, right, Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Let's see, location, let's see, map showing the location of septic fields, wells, of abutting properties. That was very informational. Does anybody have any other issues with Form 10.3 that has not been answered by Damon?
I see the wells, where's the septic fields?
Well, on the second page, there is a, in the dissertation about, it's hard to get the exact location and sizing of this existing septic fields.
Yeah, I believe that.
Although you can get that offline now on the,
They're not up to
State.
date. The state's not up to date.
my septic fields in there.
Yours is there.
And actually, lot number 7 of this is available through there too, which was interesting to see. Okay. But no, I don't think we're gonna be able to get exact information. And I think later on, we'll talk a little bit about that, because I think Coral Farmer also had some issues with that.
Yeah.
All right, any other issues with 10.3 that anybody has? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion that Form 10.3 is complete.
I'll make that motion that Form 10.3 is complete for application 2.285.
I'll second that.
A motion has been made that Form, and properly seconded, that Form 10.3 for application 285 is complete. Any last minute discussions? Hearing none, I will take a vote.
1,
2,
3. Form 10.3 has been found complete unanimously. Moving on to Form 10.4. At our February 19th meeting, we said that the test pit log for detention basin number 2 was missing. And that was included in these submittal revisions. Did I see that? All right. Let's put that away. Was that on a regular sheet? Or would it be a Xerox copy, right?
Single sheet, and I think it's right after the stormwater management plan, or the stormwater management calculations.
Oh, okay,
Or just before, the letter talking about septic systems, yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And show the first 25 feet of driveway on the lots of incised culverts on, and that was, been amended on Plan C 2.1. Does anybody have any issues with Form 10.4? Hearing no further issues with 10.4, I will entertain a motion that 10.4 is complete.
One?
No, that's a vote.
I'll make a motion that
Oh,
Form
sorry.
10.4 for application 2.285 is complete.
I'll second that.
The motion, which has been properly seconded, that Form 10.4 for application 25-285 is complete, has been made. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll take a vote. Now you can,
Oh, okay, now I can say one.
now,
One.
2.
3. Form 10.4 has been found complete unanimously by the board. I will make a motion that application 25-285 is complete. May I have a second, please?
I'll second that motion.
It has been motioned and properly seconded that application 25-285 is complete. Any discussion? All right, let's move on to the vote, please.
One.
2.
3. Application 25-285 has been found complete. Okay. Before we proceed, Rick, do you have anything that you want to bring up to the board?
Yeah, thank you. First off, had maybe just a little feedback from the board on how, the response packages are received and organized. Does that work for everybody?
It worked for me. I don't get a vote.
Oh, we can look at it.
I did.
You know,
A lot of paper, yeah.
as is usually the case, a lot of paper, all right. Yeah, I appreciate that, we're continuing to work through our processes with, with the board and here in Newry, so. Anytime we have feedback, I appreciate it.
The last 2 applications from your company have been leagues ahead of the previous one before that. So,
Yeah, we appreciate that, and
thank you very much. It makes organizing it such that to increase the ease of review is much appreciated.
My feeling is too, is that with anybody like such as your organization, that, with other projects that may come before us or something like that, this will fall into place a lot easier for you,
Oh,
because,
yeah, we have a file
okay,
of
we've
notes
dotted
now.
all the i's and we crossed all the t's, and, yeah.
Yeah, we have a file of notes now, it's like, here's how to get this together the right way. But yeah, if the board had any further feedback for, comment responses and stuff like that, that's all I was looking for, and just make sure that it's easily reviewed.
Yeah. Again, having all your enclosures following the form that they go to, and then having a table of contents that can direct us to those enclosures. The only thing that would be the cat's meow would be to, on each individual enclosure, to name it enclosure 1 or whatever, to Form 10.1, or so you can easily identify it. But that's, as I said, that's,
Meredith said page
I said
numbers.
page
or
numbers.
page
That
numbers.
would also be
Or you
helpful.
can do page numbers.
That's,
Oh, yeah. It isn't, it's,
And something like you so that you can easily, it's much easier to find it when it's in the same section as the form.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
The next step would be to be able to catalog it in such a way that you can quickly get to it. So that is appreciated.
Thank you. I guess the only other thing, and we'll probably get there, is, we are in receipt of the the comments from, third-party review engineer Gold. And, we've not had a chance to go, we've gone through them in cursory review. I don't think we've seen anything that's insurmountable.
Yeah, well, that's,
We don't have,
that's coming up, so.
Gotcha, okay.
Anything else that you'd like to?
That's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
At this time, I would like to discuss with the board, have the board discuss on whether or not to conduct a site visit.
Well, I gotta say, I mean, I drove up there today and kinda got an overview, it's pretty open. You know, from the area that I saw. I mean, I'm okay to go up there if we wanna discuss something up there.
Rob?
I'm not sure I'd look for it. I mean, if there's something particular to look for, maybe, but
Okay. If there's anything that, in the plans that caught your eye that you might wanna get a better wrap around or anything?
not particularly. There's a lot of, looks like it's fairly, I mean, maybe I'm being naive, but it looks fairly straightforward.
Okay, that's valid observation. Meredith, you drive by there
Yeah.
several times a day, I'm sure?
Yes, many times. And I don't see anything.
Gooch?
No, I don't see a reason to. I've been by it, I don't know how many times over the years. It's, sort of not too bad by the road, and then gets real steep.
Yep.
You can go for one of those good old-fashioned hikes if you want.
Yeah.
Remember those from-
I mean, the reality is, I mean, like, I was just up there, I mean, I say, I've been by it 100 times, it's about stopping and saying like, oh, you know, but now I know what I'm looking for, I mean, it's pretty clearly wide open to, you know, look at terrain and, you know, what's in there and,
So everybody's comfortable with the scale and the layout, distance-wise, et cetera?
Well, it's.
How it lines up with that portion of Monkey Brook Road and all that?
Well, it's one of the straighter pieces of road in town.
yeah, that's actually.
Or at least at the end of a straight region.
Yeah,
Okay.
So, yeah, it's got good sight distances.
All right, so the consensus side here is that nobody feels the site plan is necessarily beneficial.
and you?
I can go either way. I can go either way. I certainly have done my unofficial
Not sight.
drive-by.
Sight visit.
Okay, any further discussion on site visits? All right, I'll entertain a motion that a site visit need not be conducted.
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion that the site visit for project 25-285 is not needed.
I'll second that.
A motion has been made and properly seconded that a site visit for application 25-285 is not necessary. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a vote.
1,
2,
3. Let the record show that a site visit need not be conducted. All right, public hearing. How does the board feel about a public hearing?
If I may, a question. So, major subdivision required, what's the criteria you normally use for everything else for a public hearing?
And on a case-by-case basis for where it's not specifically required. So we don't have any that I'm aware of, flow chart to go down and figure out. I will point out that due to the one and only route of access to the parcel is over a private road, I would feel more comfortable giving the opportunity for the third party to owns the private road to have the opportunity to address the board, should they choose. And therefore, a public hearing would be that venue.
That avenue too for them. And the letter we received, the email we received from the only other abutter that's commented so
Now,
far.
that letter that we got, or that email, doesn't really say anything about, doesn't give a statement.
It does not. She inquired if she was needed at the first meeting, when you just submit your application. And I explained to her the process and how if the board voted to have a public hearing, she would be notified
Okay.
again, and that would be her place to come and
Okay.
have an opinion.
Okay. Have you notified her that we were meeting tonight or anything, or not?
I did not, nope.
So,
I think she knows a little bit, we meet first and third Wednesdays.
I don't know this woman, I have no
but then
idea.
this is not a public hearing.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
And-
But it's an open meeting.
But it's not open to her.
Right, but it's, okay,
Yeah, she
she
could've
can
come
be
and
here and
listen.
gather information.
She could have, yeah,
Right.
Yeah, she can attend, she just.
right.
Last I knew, you were discussing with Boyd Corporation about access to this road. That's all done?
Yeah, they, the correspondence with Boyne was that they would allow the accesses, but they wanted it limited to the three, so that was the shared, the shared driveway accesses.
Okay.
So,
Well,
yeah,
and-
I mean,
and-
they're on board with making it happen. I could get more correspondence from the board if you felt comfortable with that in lieu of a formal public hearing. I can ask Dana to provide, whatever the board would like in that regard.
So as it stands
Well,
right now,
it's-
there's three access points to this.
Actually, it's four.
It's four.
The existing lot 7.
Okay, right, okay, so,
Right.
and then it was recommended by the fire chief to hopefully have just one access into there.
The correspondence from the fire chief was such that there should be an internal neighborhood road to the
Instead
to
of
the
having
lots.
multiple access points onto Monkey Brook Road, it should be one access point. I mean, besides the one lot that's already there,
Right,
right?
so there'd be one, but the fire department is saying one entrance
To access the
to,
properties.
to access whatever subdivided lots are in the
Yeah,
park.
right, exactly, that's what I'm saying. But right now, there's three,
Right now, there will be 3 because
plus the one on the,
because the lots abut the road, or have road frontage, I should say, which is a requirement for, well, yeah, they meet the minimum requirement for road frontage.
I don't get a say, but can I have an opinion? Okay. Given the fact that we have correspondence from one of the abutters and that this is a private road, I would like to recommend a public hearing.
Recommend what?
Recommend a public hearing.
I don't have an issue with it.
We could, if we go with a public meeting, I would suggest that we do it on, if possible, at the beginning of our next meeting, which is the 2nd of April.
Mhm.
So we have to be pronto in getting the word out to the publications to get it
Okay,
properly publicized.
Yep.
Given that we have had some correspondence from an abutter, and also that the issue that the road frontage is a private road as opposed to a town road, and I feel that that the board needs to make every opportunity available to receive a comment. And therefore, my opinion is, my choice is to have a public hearing. And therefore, I will make a motion to that effect.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second that we hold a public hearing on this application, 285. Discussions from many board members as to yea or nay?
I have a question about this, to say, will the public hearing be held for this project? So if we're gonna vote to have a public hearing, at the bottom it says, in local newspapers, 2 publications, once in the Bethel Citizen, once in the Sun Journal. Now, how is that being affected where the Bethel system is being
Okay.
bi-weekly?
I have an answer for that.
Excellent.
Okay, it'll go in the digital public notice section of the Sun Journal.
That covers it.
And that covers it. We can do it twice in 1 week. I just need to get it into them tomorrow morning.
All right.
Unfortunately, yeah, our local newspapers up here, I don't know if you know, but yeah, they're gone, pretty much.
Any other, yes,
Am I welcome in this discussion?
I don't know, it depends on what you have to say.
I was trying to remember Robert's rule, able to participate.
We don't want to have to edit the video.
As far as the scheduling of that public hearing, I think it would be favorable to the applicant not to push for that, for the next meeting, and maybe allow a little bit more time, thinking about when the submittal would be required for there to be sufficient progress for review at the, I'm not speaking that well. We'd have to submit basically all of any revised materials, responses to Goral Palmer and whatever comes up as far as the attorney goes by Friday. Well, Monday, Friday, digitally.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's likely, so
Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead and finish.
I would, if it's the same to the board, I'd prefer maybe to push for the following meeting and then give adequate time for us to get submittals in to be productive at that meeting, as far as this application is concerned.
I mean, the April 16th meeting.
Yeah.
Now, so if, let's see, we're discussing the date right now, but first let's finish the motion. As about whether to either have one or not. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, the motion is to hold a public hearing on application 25-285. All those in favor?
1, 2,
3. Okay, so the motion to have a public hearing is carried unanimously. Now let's talk about the logistics. The earliest that we can have this would be on our next meeting, the 2nd of April. The applicant is requesting to delay that till the 16th of April. Principally, if I understand your argument, so that you have time to rebut observations and comments made by our consultants, or make modifications
Yeah,
to the
right,
plans.
exactly. Yeah, I'd love to come in with all the ducks in a row, basically,
Okay.
following that public hearing.
By the ordinance, if we choose, since we have chosen to go with a public hearing, the board will have to find the application approved the conditions, or disapproved within 30 days of the public hearing. So if we go with your request to delay it to the 16th, it would be roughly, I would guess, the second meeting in May that we would have till April, excuse me. The second,
April 16th.
no,
May.
it'd be May, it'd be the second meeting in May,
Which would be the 21st.
Yep.
the 21st, and that would probably be right on the 30-day mark.
Yep.
Close, yeah.
Okay. Unless both parties, the town and the applicant, mutually agree to extend that deadline. So, any comments as to when to have the public hearing?
I mean, is that a feasible reality without causing issue within that 30 days?
What, having it on the 16th?
Yeah.
Yeah, feasible. It
And
shouldn't
then-
cause,
and then have the 30 days afterwards.
Just gives them longer to get their ducks in a row.
No, no,
Well,
that's certainly
I want to be
fine.
respectful of the board's time, because if I
Yeah,
show up here for a public
It's,
hearing.
it's
Right.
probably more an impact on the applicant if they're itchy, if they got the excavator warming up on the side of the road or not.
That's the only road they can work on right now. Everything else is posted, so maybe.
Yeah, there's no excavators up there tonight.
John, you seem to be contemplating,
So, there will be a public hearing on the 16th of April,
right,
and we have to make a decision by the 16th of,
by the 21st of
21st, huh?
21st of May,
Is the second meeting in May.
the second meeting in May.
Right, you need a decision. It's
Unless both,
60 days from now,
the
right?
board-
Because you just found it complete.
if we did not have a public hearing, we would have 60 days going forward from today. But because we have been a public hearing, that overrides and states that the decision must be within 30 days of having the public hearing.
Oh, okay.
And if we had the public hearing on the 16th of April, it turns out to be 6.5 dozen the other. Okay. Have we kicked this can around the room enough?
I think so.
All right. So, well, Joel, makes it a little bit easier for you to get the public notice off.
Mhm.
We'll have the public hearing on the 16th of April at 6 o'clock
Mhm.
at this location. And then proceed from there into the meeting, into our scheduled meeting. And I don't anticipate a need for a large auditorium, so this room would be sufficient.
I think this room will handle it. So,
Okay.
I have a question. Section 3G, public hearings, it says the applicant shall notify by mail and provide the board with certified mail receipts, all the property owners within 1,000 feet of the property site. Time and place of the public hearing. Just, I wanted to say that out loud for you.
So noted. So,
That's, you folks post in the papers. and-
I do the paper
Yeah,
and the post
yeah,
office,
yeah,
you guys do the
sends out.
applicant.
you
Yeah,
have
mail the letters out again.
Yeah, well, the abutters.
the abutters.
Right,
You
yes.
sent out the
Yeah,
abutters.
Yeah.
the same list that you already used once.
Mhm.
Is there a template for public hearing being held, or do we write that? Do you?
I think you guys write that.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't had to advertise that. I haven't had to draft a letter to abutters here, not
Right.
this time.
We would appreciate a courtesy copy of whatever you send out, please.
Sure.
Electronic is fine.
Okay.
Sorry. Did I overstep?
No, that was
No,
very,
good.
very good. Very good.
In my head, I'm thinking, they've already done this once,
Mhm.
and that may be something we need to look at in the ordinance.
How's-
Well, sending out a abutter notification just because they've submitted an application,
mhm.
it seems like it should wait until there's a public hearing.
What if there's not a public?
But if there's not a public hearing, now you already have an
Yeah.
application that's well into
Yeah, yeah,
deliberation.
Other
Yeah.
letters.
part of doing business, I guess.
Also, by sending out the letter early, it gives the butters a chance to reach out to the board and say,
Like they
hey, I
did.
care.
Yeah, yeah, okay, all right. Trying to be frugal.
Gooch, you seem
Sorry.
to be in deep meditation?
No,
No, you're not in deep, okay.
no,
Pondering.
just pondering.
Okay, let's move on. Section 21 of the UDRO establishes the requirement for a performance guarantee.
So, when we jump in on that one? Coral Palmer had replied to me when I asked them what they thought of the cost estimate under section 4. Their statements back to me. Stormwater, 20,000, advertising, 7, and survey monumentation, 3, for it to equal $30,000. should they include the cost of the shared driveways and driveway culverts to the right-of-way? He assumes that the lots are being sold and developed separately and by different contractors, so we cannot include the erosion control for each lot.
That was in Grove.
That was from Goral Palmer, that was from Will. So, can I just ask the applicant a question, Mr. Chairman? So can you, is the intention that the lots will be sold separately and the driveways will be put in by the owners at the time that the lots are developed?
Yes.
Even though they're shared driveways? How are they gonna split that cost? First guy in
First,
pays for the
yeah,
driveway?
First in, basically, it's pretty,
Okay.
yeah, it's been pretty common in the area.
Okay, and since the lots are being sold and developed separately, they cannot include the erosion control in each lot in this cost estimate review.
It wouldn't make much sense to. yeah.
Okay, all right. I just wanted the board to have
So
those
the
answers.
bottom line is the 30,000 is,
According to Will? Yeah, it's okay.
Is that an email?
Yes, it is, I'll print it.
I was gonna say, it should be printed.
Yep.
for the finding facts.
I needed to talk it out first, in case I needed to go back and get more answers.
must have just come in, right?
It did, yeah,
Okay.
that's why it's on my phone.
So just for the heck of it, I'm buyer for a lot. How am I supposed to know that I'm supposed to be responsible for putting in the erosion control?
I believe it would be in the covenants. We have other
For your
subdivisions where
particular lot.
erosion and stormwater controls are in their covenants.
Okay, but it would be an enlightening thing if I discovered, oh, and I gotta do this, I gotta pay for it.
I would think that would be on the job of the realtor to enlighten you on that, when you show interest in the law. I'm not gonna disparage anybody right now.
Sorry, we didn't intend to laugh quite that much.
Gooch, as we are proceeding with the review and drafting possible conditions of approval, that might be for you to draft up and submit. The condition of approval that
Is on the plan and more
That's
readily
it,
available.
that
when
is on
somebody's
the
looking
plan
at it.
and gives one more bullet to the code enforcement officer when they review the building permit to make sure that they are in compliance with the subdivision application.
Because Gooch, I do, on a regular basis, for multiple subdivisions in town, have to point out to the builder, when they're pulling their building permits, oh, by the way, don't forget, you can only clear X amount of square feet. You need to put in this size culvert, you need this, you need that. Well, where's that? On the approved subdivision plan, and that's the only teeth I have when the permit comes in,
So that should be on the sheet that we sign.
Yes.
that's what Ted's asking you to
Yes.
do, draft a
If we make
condition
it
of
a condition
approval.
of approval.
Yeah,
Okay, I'll see what I can do.
okay.
The
I'll see
other,
how my legalese is.
the other thing to ponder on that is whether or not the owner of the private way should sign off on the construction of the, beforehand,
Construction of,
the driveway entrance.
it's a good idea.
Both of those I would
I'll go print that.
I would suggest that you work on it as a condition, I would ask, I'm not suggesting, I'm requesting that you
Yeah.
draft that up for a condition of approval.
So the guy who buys lot 3 is going to have to go get something from Boyd that says, yeah, put a driveway here. But the guy who buys lot 2 doesn't have to worry about it, because lot 3 already did it.
Kinda.
Or they go and Boyd says it's already been reviewed. Sometimes first come, first serve isn't so beneficial, is it?
It's like putting in the first poll, right?
Rick?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, you're not buying any of the lots.
I'm not.
No, I'm not, I'm just,
I would anticipate that the applicant might opt to put in the three, shared entrance aprons as shown on the site plan. And that would sort of cover the
So
access.
that could be a condition of approval then, that the applicant is responsible for construction of the driveway aprons, but not the rest of the driveway.
And that would give the lot buyers the latitude to come in and then the first guy extends the driveway to where it needs to be.
Well, I can just see him putting in his half, and then the next guy has to extend the whole thing, the width of it.
Yeah.
Okay. Good sidetrack there. Back to performance guarantees. Rick, are you familiar with chapter 20, with section 21 of the UDRO and performance guarantees?
I am. I think the applicant would look to do option 4, which is I'm gonna not do the wording of it justice, but essentially restrict lot sales until the required improvements are completed.
Okay. That will require a contractual agreement between the applicant and the town that gets recorded in the registry of deeds and has to go to the select board for their approval.
We don't say. Is there a template?
You did that, you had to do that for the
This is the
pines.
one that you were just reading?
Mhm.
Oh, okay. Is there a template, a town template for that now?
For what? Sorry.
The applicant wants to go with, in lieu of a performance guarantee, a
Is it
agreement with the
contractual or
town.
conditional?
Sorry?
Is it contractual or conditional?
A conditional approval, or, I can't remember the exact wording, but basically, no conveyance of a lot is allowed until the infrastructure is built.
Okay.
Kinda like what we did for the pines.
I believe I have that, and I believe Mainland drafted it.
Okay. So that's an agreement, both
Yes.
parties signed, then it
Yeah,
gets.
it went through,
Okay.
it was prepared by, it gets prepared by, well,
The applicant's attorney.
the applicant's attorney, it goes to our attorney, it goes back to your attorney, it goes back to our attorney.
Good, you have extra time.
Well, if it's all drafted.
Yeah, it's all
Now that
drafted.
should
Yeah.
streamline it significantly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I appreciate the heads up on that, because I wasn't aware. In the past, it had just been an acknowledgement in this meeting, and then, that was.
No, it's,
that was the level of
that's,
formality,
it's, if you dig into the nitty-gritty of the section 21, it stipulates that it needs to be a contractual agreement between the town and the applicant, and the only body that is allowed to enter into a contractual agreement for the town is the select board. So it has to go through the select board for that. And it gets recorded because that way it just makes it that much clearer that you can't convey a lot until it's put in.
Right.
Understood.
Okay, that eliminates a lot of that. Then you don't have to worry about a construction schedule. The cost estimate doesn't have to be that detailed. Joelle,
Mm-hmm.
are you comfortable inspecting the infrastructure of this project, or should we
You want,
engage a third party?
I am comfortable with inspecting the 2 stormwater ponds. I can agree to transit as long as it's set up when I get there with the contractor, I can do the math for that. I am comfortable with both of those ponds, and I'm fairly certain at my age I can determine that they're built correctly.
Okay. Because
But I am not an engineer and I'm not an expert.
There were some discussion points from Goral Farmer on those ponds.
Yeah, that, I will wait and, we'll all wait and see their response to and or edits about.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, from what I'm hearing then is that you are comfortable being the inspecting official for this project,
I am.
okay? Which therefore saves having to establish an escrow account for that. Okay, let the record show that the code enforcement officer will be the inspecting official for the infrastructure required of this project, should and when it gets approved. Comments from anybody? Everybody with me as to the third-party inspection and what we just went through? Rick, are there any other waiver requests, performance standards, or required improvements, UDRO section 22.b or UDRO 22.c, that you are bringing before the board? Speak now or forever hold your silence.
No.
Okay. Let the record show that the applicant is not submitting any waiver request for performance standards as per UDRO section 22.b, nor required improvements referenced UDRO section 22.c. Okay, we just talked about inspection. Okay, let's jump over to the correspondence that we received from the town consultants. First of all, let's deal with the correspondence from Perkin Thompson. Everybody should have in front of them an email stream, the latest being an email from the code enforcement officer to the Newry Planning Board dated March 10th. Included in that mail stream is an email from Perkin Thompson, one Brandon J. Mazer, dated Friday, March 7th. And another one, or an email sent from the code enforcement officer to Perkin Thompson dated March 4th. And the original one back from, what date is that in? Let's see that one. March 4th if you want. Okay.
February 20th.
February, let's see.
Goes from the 12th to the 4th.
So starting from the oldest to the newest, the planning board has a few questions. Is that the oldest one?
Yes.
Okay, and then the next one was a, good morning, Joel, assuming that the permits are issued. And then, from you, our planning board chair wants to be clear on the question and your answer, and then the lawyer's response to that. Becky, do you have all that for your records? Yeah. All right, so the main question that I had to the town attorney, and there were several questions there, but the main one had to deal with the need for a site, what do you call that, site plan application, SLOTA permit request.
What is it?
SLOTA,
Yeah, but what's
Site.
the name?
site law,
Site law,
Site
development,
location, there we go.
site location permit, basically. In the Maine state statute, and correct me, Rick, if I stumble over any of this, a subdivision greater than 20 acres needs a site development permit. However, there is an exception that says when the subdivision is single dwelling residential units, less than 30 acres and less than 15 units, a permit is not required.
That's, yes.
Is that,
Yeah,
You
that's-
comfortable
that's a
with
good
that?
summary, Yeah.
does the board understand what I'm saying? Okay. So there are a couple of key words in that exception, one being, the biggest one being single residential dwelling, or words to that effect, which negates any business activity taking place
Within that subdivision.
within that subdivision, within those lots.
Despite the fact that there are 6 individual lots. It's a.
All right, well, despite the fact that they're in the resort development district and conceivably, Dollar General could put in a store on that site if they so chose because of the zoning that it's in. So, the question, or my concern is, okay, so we have, the applicant is using this exemption, correct?
Yes, other than, I take exception to the word exemption, because it's a threshold standard, but yes.
It said so right in the statute, exemption.
It says exemption.
It says it's exemption.
I apologize, I stand corrected.
This
Yeah,
is
my
except for, or words to that effect.
Gotcha, then yes.
Okay,
Sorry, not to be picky, do you mean an exemption or exception?
I'm sorry?
An exemption
The
in that case.
exception, right, or exemption, I'd have to go read the, exemption, you're right, exemption, not exception, but exemption.
Exemption, correct.
An exemption, okay.
The email says exception.
I'm
Did I say
sorry?
Something, the email actually says exception, not exemption.
No, it says exempt.
Okay, am I
On
looking at
March
the right
7th.
email? I'm on the one from March 4th.
Look at this one, where it says
Okay,
exempt.
interesting. So it's going back and forth.
Um,
The previous email said exception.
So my concern was, okay, what's if the application gets approved, and without a site law permit being pursued, what's to stop a future lot owner from erecting a Dollar General on the site, or a retail establishment, I should say. So, if we, in the covenant from the proposed covenant that's been submitted, it specifically limits the use of a lot to residential purposes with a disclaimer that renting is a residential use. So I asked the town attorney, is this the way to go about this? And the town attorney came back and said, whatever goes in the covenants is between the applicant and, or the buyer and the seller. It has no implication or reference or anything to do with the SLOTA permit. Everybody with me so far? And that's basically the boil down of that 3 or 4 page email stream. Joel, am I so far on track?
Yes.
So, the concern that I have is still making, if a site law permit is not gonna be pursued, then that we may stay within the limits set by Maine statute. So, my suggestion to the applicant is to get a review from DEP saying that no permit is required.
Yeah, that's the recommendation from the attorney. Or we make it a condition prior to issuing a building permit.
Which you still have to go get the,
Which, right, yes, but that's just not, that puts,
well, the building permit is, that's misuse of the.
Right.
Right.
yeah, I don't like that.
You following me, Rick?
Well, I was. I was following you pretty well. Right up until, asking DEP, were you saying like, it would be required that if somebody were to bring a commercial use to that lot, then they would have to request
No,
review of DEP? Because that would basically put
For-
them in violation of DEP rules.
in order for the way I'm looking at it is in order for the subdivision to proceed, a sign-off letter from DEP saying that, yes, you qualify for the exception as defined in the Maine statute. And therefore- Exemption, thank you.
Yeah.
And therefore, you don't have to pursue a permit.
I can request that. DEP hasn't been terribly responsive unless you put an application in front of them.
Okay. Well-
Which always puts us in a bit of a catch-22, but, how about this? What if there was a note on the subdivision plan that said the intent of the subdivision plan is for single-family residential, development only, and a commercial use would require review, by DEP and the planning board. And that way it says right on the plan and you have teeth that there's no way someone can come in and propose that Dollar General kind of scenario.
But isn't the word intent? Isn't that that just seems like, well, that's what we mean, but, you know, we did this, so.
Well, yeah, I see what you're saying. We say intent when because we're in the note, we're saying both in the note, you have to, if you propose a commercial use, it's not allowed unless you get DEP permitting and go back to the town for review. So it doesn't preclude it forever and ever, amen, but it would require that somebody would have to be pretty motivated, they'd have to go back to get all the required reviews. And it would say it right on the plan, and then the whole idea behind saying the intent is that we're saying the intent of this subdivision is to be single-family residential. And that would probably cover you as a town, so that you know that on the face of the plan, it precludes the commercial use. Again, unless further permits.
But there's no way to lock that in with teeth to say like, this is what it is, and you can never be.
Well, what Rick is saying is that should somebody have enough energy to pursue a SLOTA permit, they go for it.
I'm actually okay with that. I mean, we have a lot of subdivisions with conditions of approval in town that I have hanging on my office wall, so I check them when the permit comes in. Okay, yep, these conditions of approval have been met, I can do this. Or, excuse me, you gotta do this, this, and this, take it back.
But it's also quite possible that you have some minor subdivisions that use this exemption, but never formalized it.
Oh, goodness,
Previous
that's
planning
all.
board. Yes, previous planning boards, 100%.
And, well, sorry, is it okay for me to jump in?
No. But you may contribute.
Okay, I'd contribute that, it's common around, for other boards around the state as well, like it's, that exemption is a common enough, and known enough exemption that when folks see, everything up to a 14-lot subdivision, they generally know that exemption is being utilized. So, by that same logic, you don't often see a note like that on a plan that says commercial is excluded, but I think if we worded it correctly, we could give the applicant flexibility for the future, just in that case if somebody was sufficiently
Well, that-
motivated, but.
That to me is, as you pointed out, is protection to the towns. If somebody 10 years down the road comes in and says, I want to establish a retail store.
Yeah.
And
That would mess up
by
the funding
then,
too.
by then, members of this board have moved on. And nobody remembers.
The code officer has moved on too. But if it's on the plan,
Has to return.
no different than what I do right
Well,
now, I'm going back on plans that are
Okay,
15,
so-
20 years old, so yeah.
That's it. Anybody have any other input to that?
Well, I mean, I
Rob?
understand it better now.
You understand it better now, okay? I heard an offer for you to draft up that condition of approval.
Yes, yeah, I feel comfortable that I can do that, and
Okay.
then I'll send it to Joel.
And yeah, forward it to us, and then we'll have our attorney review it, just to make sure that it's all set. Good, I'm farming out the conditions of approval.
I am speaking on behalf of the applicant at the moment, and so I'll caveat all of that with, I need to confirm it, but
Right.
I'm relatively sure that that's not gonna be a problem.
Okay. Okay, at this stage, the only other, okay, so there are no other questions on the Perkins Thompson email stream?
Is the board satisfied about the driveway for the lot number 7? We cannot go back on them and make them meet
Right.
requirements.
Yeah,
So if everybody's clear on that, then the email is satisfactory.
Okay. So basically, unless lot 7 impedes the other lots in the subdivision from being created,
Yeah.
we really don't have any ground to stand on to have them go back and change.
It doesn't sound like it was, yeah.
Okay, let's move on to the engineering review memorandum from Laurel Palmer. Becky, do you have a copy of that? Or-
Did I give it to you? Oh, here we go. Yeah.
No, it should have nice color.
No, I put the email in front of it,
Oh,
so
okay.
yes.
Okay. That's what I have. Emails in mine, okay. All right, so we asked Lowell Palmer to review the subdivision application in terms of several parts of our ordinance. And they wrote back to us with a 2.5-page memorandum. The first one is discussing section 13G of the UDRO, erosion and sediment control. Item number 1, Rick, would you like to discuss that, please?
I had that in front of me.
Yep, you do. I put it
Oh,
in
you
your
have
stack,
it in
yep.
the file here?
Yep.
Gotcha, thank you.
And it says there we're recommending a typical lot erosion control detail be created showing the layout of erosion control, best management practices in accordance with Maine DEP erosion and sediment control, best management practices manual for designers and engineers. Section 13G, oh, that's the UDRO. No,
No, yeah, no exception there.
will that be, is that gonna be an additional plan,
We can provide,
or is that the, no, this is a piece of paper if I remember correctly, right? No.
yeah, probably the best thing to do, because it's
That goes,
easiest.
that gets attached to the, HOA bylaws as an enclosure, I think, right?
We can do it that way. Yep,
Okay. So you're taking that for action then?
yes.
Okay. Item number 2, adding a note to the subdivision plan that indicates the maximum development area for each lot in previous lawn, etc. If this is not the same area modeled in the post-development condition of the Hydro-CAD model, then the model should be updated to reflect the maximum developed area. So my takeaway from that is a building envelope, is that correct, Joelle?
Hang on, sorry, catching up.
We're down in item number 2
Yeah.
on the page 1.
Yes, sir? Yes,
Alright,
that would be the building envelope.
Okay, so we need to have a building envelope shown on the plan for each lot.
Building envelope often gets confused with building setbacks. I think I would, if the board was, amenable, I would probably state the stormwater assumptions, which is the same for each lot in this case. As far as the amount of impervious area assumed and the amount of landscaped area assumed, and provide those square footages.
Okay, so you're gonna add to a plan the subdivision plan, the maximum development area, impervious lawn, etc., as a note,
Yes, that would be my,
and what plan would that be?
that would be the subdivision plan is the best spot for that.
Which is,
That's 2.1?
Yes.
Okay.
Because that's the recorded plan, and
okay,
I think gives the most teeth.
okay, so that will be to be added to S 2.1. The grading associated with infiltration basin number 1 is within 10 feet of the adjoining property. UDRO section 13GH states that the top of the cut or the bottom of the fill section shall not be closer than 10 feet to the adjoining property. Revise the infiltration basin grading accordingly.
Yeah, we don't take exception to that comment either, and
Okay.
it is, a fairly easy revision. We'll change the shape of the pond slightly.
And that would be on what plan?
Plan C 2.1.
Okay, so it's to be shown on plan C2,
.1.
C2.1, okay. Any comments from the board so far? So let's move on now to section 13H of the UDRO, stormwater management. Provide a stormwater maintenance plan, which is, okay, and that would be the one that gets attached to the HOA, right? The maintenance
They
plan,
could both, but yes.
okay. So what are we gonna see? Joelle, you look like you're,
So that, I believe, is what goes in line with what Gooch was recommending for a condition of approval. Who who maintains this, you know, if we're not gonna include it in the cost estimate for the performance guarantee, and it's gonna be put on the individual lot owners.
That was the driveway culvert. Here we're talking about,
Oh, I think Gooch meant stormwater too, because we were talking about erosion in the cost estimate. That Coral Palmer.
Stormwater management.
Right, yeah, yeah.
okay, so that means stormwater management is two forks. You have the two basins,
Mm-hmm.
as well as the culverts along the road, is that what you're
Correct.
saying?
I've run into issues on other lot owners that didn't know they were responsible for their rain garden or their retention pond. So I wanna make sure that any future
Okay.
lot owners knows this up front.
Right, I'm a little fuzzy on the HOA paperwork.
I don't know how that would be worded, but it does.
Is the HOA, who's responsible for the two, you're forming, if I recall correctly, you're forming an HOA strictly for management of the stormwater systems.
Yeah.
Was that thinking just the two ponds, or are you retention ponds, or does that also include any culverts, et cetera, et cetera?
Understanding Joel's concerns, I think we can write into the stormwater maintenance plan that the culverts, the driveway culverts are included in that.
Okay,
That's easy, and,
I think that protects the private road owner too.
yeah.
okay,
Gives the
so,
association teeth, so that if
Okay.
there's some sort of
So-
fight between two landowners about, do I replace my half of the culvert? But just the right side. Then, yeah,
and
then
then
the
now they're gonna
association.
argue about the
Who
fees
damaged
that you
what?
pay to the HOA.
Right, yeah, the association can
Okay.
take action.
Okay, so,
We don't take exception to that, we can submit a maintenance plan.
okay, and that would include then the, stormwater on the driveway aprons.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Test pit, TP-SW2, identified groundwater approximate elevation of 715.5 feet. Bottom of the infiltration basin number 1 is at elevation 711 feet. We recommend providing 3 feet of separation between the bottom of the infiltration basin and the seasonal high groundwater level based on chapter 6 of volume 3 of the main DEP best management practices technical design manual. So if I understand this correctly, the basin would always have water in it.
Without other engineering controls, yeah, we don't take exception to that comment, and I think we can make a successful pond design around that.
Okay, okay.
And it will look in shape very similar to what's been presented already.
Okay. So, a lot of these will have to come back and revisit to see what exactly you've done. Access to detention basin number 2. Is
I
that,
don't know why they're asking that, so,
there's an easement
yeah.
around the basin, if I remember correctly.
Well, no, I take that back, I see why they're asking that. The shared driveway for lot 6 and lot 1 stops at the property line for lot 1, and then it goes into some wetland, so yeah, how do they access that?
Yeah, we had talked about this, in-house as well, and I think it makes sense to show a limited amount of wetland impact there, and then a construction road that would later be able to be used by easement for access. And, so we already have the easement that shows the ability to get to lot 1 through lot 6. We would,
There's also an easement around the pond, is there not?
there is, we would connect those two easements essentially, so that there's not a
Okay, so that would be,
privately held.
that would be show up on, what is that? S
That would be
2.1.
S 2.1, yeah.
2.1. Okay, detention basin number 2 appears to be modeled incorrectly in the Hydro.K.A.T model. The horizontal orifice of the detention pond outlet structure is modeled at 2 inches, whereas the detention pond outlet detail on sheet C91 shows 27.5 inches. Inch catch basin frame and grate. Revise the Hydro.K.A.T model to reflect the proposed detention pond outlet. That sounds straightforward enough.
Yeah.
Okay, and where and how will we see the results of that? Another half ream of paper with printout?
Probably. Traditionally, we would prep revised materials, so we'd have a response to their
Okay,
comments, and then we would have a revised Hydro.K.A.T report. So yeah, another ream of
Another half a
paper.
tree.
Another half a tree, right.
Okay.
And that would be provided to the board, understanding that as soon as we get it digitally to Joelle, that she would forward it on to Girl Palmer for their review of, did we meet?
okay.
If that works for you guys.
Yep.
The emergency, number 8, the emergency spillway detail does not provide an impermeable barrier within the riprap layer. Therefore, as currently detailed, the flow over the spillway will occur at the bottom of the riprap layer rather than the top of the riprap layer, as the spillway appears to be modeled. An impermeable barrier with the crest, add an impermeable barrier with the crest at the top of the riprap. Any arguments against that?
No, that's.
And that would be a modification to the detailed sheet.
Is that 9.1 again?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
C9.1, yeah.
Okay. Number 9, provide a rip-wrap apron at the outfall detention basin number 2, outlet control structure, outlet pipe. Okay, and that will also be on C9.1.
Oh, I apologize, I got carried away with that.
Number 9,
Yes. Let's see, that would be C2.1.
2.1, okay. Just testing. Infiltration basin number 1 and detention basin number 2 had minimal freeboard during the 25-year, 24-hour storm and appears to outlet the majority of the stormwater through the emergency spillway rather than infiltrating. We recommend that the spillway convey the flow of a 25-year, 24-hour storm while maintaining 1-foot embankment freeboard above the peak water elevation, all right?
Yeah, we don't take exception to that one either.
Okay, and that will also be in 9.1.
That will be reflected in the Hydro.K.A.T report that
Hydro.K.A.T
they get to see.
Okay,
And then there may be a slight change to the pond in order to make that happen. That would be on C2.1.
okay. And all of these you're gonna expand upon on your reply anyway, right?
Exactly, yep.
All right, we recommend the stormwater best management practices be laid out and elevations verified by town engineer or design designated representative prior to the construction because the existing condition elevations are based on state of Maine LiDAR topography. We have found the inconsistencies with LiDAR contours can create complications in the field while constructing stormwater best management practice features.
Did I just bite myself in the foot with my earlier
You
decision?
might have.
Rick, you'll meet me on site, right?
We can, so what they're recommending is layout prior so that you can see that it works.
Yeah.
That could simply be a condition of approval on the plans that says, applicant will provide, well, just what it
Right,
says here.
just what it says.
Yeah, and then you'll get to see the stakes with elevations, cut to, fill to, and all that kind of stuff, to make sure that you can assess that it's gonna work elevationally, if that
Okay.
works for you.
It does?
All right, so that needs to be addressed by a condition of approval. Gotcha. Any board member have any questions, comments on stormwater management? Neat stuff. Groundwater protection. Provide a note on the subdivision plan stating the project is located on a map, sand and gravel aquifer. That should be easy enough to do, right? Number 12.
Yes. Yep.
Provide preliminary well, septic tank, and wastewater disposal field locations to ensure all first-time disposal system setbacks of the main subsurface wastewater disposal rules can be met. That kind of goes back to an earlier discussion we had when we were looking at completeness and whether or not, because those were
Building
not,
envelope.
they were not shown.
Yeah, this is the only one that we kind of take some exception to. I think generally, the landowner, can prove through their HEG 200 and their building permit that they're meeting the appropriate setbacks.
Okay.
Where I would typically agree on this would be a case like Peaks Village, for example, where the lots are so small as to have interactions with all of the, it's very planned out where those septic systems have to go and where the wells have to go. I would suggest on this one, the lots are large enough, so that's not the case, but.
We will wait to see what your rebuttal is on that.
Yeah, yeah, I don't disagree with you, but yes.
And Joel, once we get that, we'll make sure that the GP has
Yeah.
another say.
Yeah.
Yeah, but, so they're just mentioning like preliminary locations to ensure that the rules can be met. So
Mhm, right.
I think if you were to plot them, the homeowners don't have to stick to that, but it shows that there is a way to make it fit.
And I'll play, first-time systems in a well need to be 100 feet apart, but there are variances allowed that I can approve as LPI. So that I'm gonna wait and see Mainland's response on this and then chime in again. I have an idea. Even doing preliminary, I think is a waste of time, frankly.
All right, so the last one, basically, Goral Farmer, I'm sure not free of charge, is offering to review the HHE 200 forms when the individual lot owner submits them.
Yeah, that one we kind of
Hours
gave
and
up
hours
to.
being trained by the state for this.
Right. Our response, and we talked about that internally, would probably have been to suggest that Joel's perfectly capable, but if that's, if the board.
If I need help, that's why we have them on retainer. I will go to them if I need help. Yeah. I also have free help from the state of Maine. I appreciate Girl Palmer's offer.
Moving on to section 17, storm drainage design and construction standards. Driveway culverts are proposed for 2 of the shared driveways. Driveway culverts need to be sized to convey the flow of the 25-year, 24-hour storm along Monkey Brook Road. Provide driveway culvert sizing calculations. They must like those reams of paper. Okay.
We don't take exception there. We did size those culverts, but we didn't provide the calculations to them, so we're happy to do that.
Okay, so mainland to provide.
Where was that?
Okay, so the only one that really is, that you have exception to is the
13.
13. We'll wait to see what you have to say back on that. All right,
13, 14.
Rick, any comments, questions?
I think we understand what we need to do on this pretty well.
And your to-do list is well noted, annotated.
Yeah.
Okay, probably the next step is to start to review performance standards and criteria of approval, which I would rather not commence until after the public hearing. We have a chance, and also we've gotten feedback.
The rebuttal from Coral Palmer's review, yeah.
Were you gonna, because you were gonna talk about this email chain as well, that you haven't.
Because I haven't seen it.
Did you give
I don't know which one you're talking about.
Will Haskell's?
So the estimate includes
We
stormwater
we did talk
ponds.
about that.
Really?
We already talked about that.
Oh, we did?
Yeah, that was about the performance
Yeah, I just
guarantee.
printed it for you
Oh,
because
for
it
the
came
performance-
late. It
Oh,
was
right,
on my
right, right.
phone.
Yeah, that's the one that I highlighted in blue because I had to
And
get
you're
it
gonna
from you.
email that
To everybody.
to everybody, okay, so we can
Took
include
my
that.
highlight off.
So that's not something that we have.
No, but we have discussed it in this meeting.
All right,
Yeah, it was
so
already discussed.
at the next time we bring up this application, I would like to entertain conditions of approval that board members feel should be brought forth and be considered. So, the homework assignment is to start thinking about conditions of approval, if any, that you feel should be on the final plan. The other thing, Rick, that I'd like to talk about is final plan submission. When is that a possibility? Do we have anything else? You're gonna act on everything that Royal Palmer has done. We should be able to review that the next time we meet. And assuming that you diligently carry those out, there should be no further corrections.
I would suspect, yeah. Final plan, submittal, meaning or final approval form, correct?
The final plan is what, just as it says, it's final.
But don't you want to have conditions of approval on that?
That is true. So
Okay.
we can't have that until after conditions of approval have been voted on and approved. So, at the next meeting, we should have all the conditions of approval that we feel that we would like on the application. And since the next meeting will probably be after the public hearing, we should be ready to start to review the performance standards and the criteria of approval.
On the 16th, April
That would
16th,
be on the 16th of April, correct?
after the public hearing.
After the public hearing. So, Joelle, would you please either email or print out for board members the worksheet for performance
Sure.
standards?
Do you want them now? Do you want to wait until the 16th so you don't lose them?
I want mine now.
Well, as I would
I'm
prefer
gonna
that,
take mine now.
since they are worksheets, we should be working on these as we review
Yeah.
the standards.
Have they changed recently? Because I already have copies.
No. I thought I put them in the packet when I handed out the packet.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute.
I don't know, I'm
Pretty sure you gave me one this month.
I did.
I got this.
They're also, I emailed them to your
Didn't we
office.
already book it?
Yeah, that, Bruce has got them.
Yeah, you
I
put them
don't
in.
know why I don't have them, but. okay.
Let me see.
I was probably paying attention.
That one looks like it's been marked on already. Which one, for what application was that one?
Maybe just a guideline. May I have another one, please?
Which one? Performance or criteria?
I'm pretty sure you put it in the packet on.
Both of them.
Both of them, yeah.
There you go. And criteria.
I mean, I
Okay,
guess maybe-
And as we work through this and think about this, please think about specific findings of fact. I'm trying very hard to stay away from generalized statements. And that our findings of fact address the specifics of the application at hand. Questions, comments from anybody?
Rick, I'll email you another copy tomorrow. Just,
Yeah,
was wondering
I have it,
why-
but yes, thank you.
I was wondering why the building envelopes are the size and shape that they are, but it looks like lot 6 and lot 5, but lot 4 could have bigger building envelopes.
Is this kind of run in there, no setbacks were included, or?
Well,
the setbacks are there, but,
looking at lot 6, I mean, the building envelope is right next to the road, but behind it is a relatively large flat area.
Yeah, that's easily explained, if now's
Yeah,
appropriate time.
questions been made.
There was an existing old foundation on the property.
Lot 5, yeah.
Yeah, and it was suggested by the professional who did the study for MHPC way back when, that a buffer be held around that foundation. So,
An archaeological dig,
what's that?
an archaeological dig.
Well, that would be the
MHCP, is
other
that
option.
historical?
What's that?
I
Yes,
don't know
I'm
what the
sorry.
acronym stands for.
Yeah, Maine Historic Preservation
Okay,
Commission.
thank
So
you.
we, yeah, they came back, we asked them for their response like we always do, and then they came back, for this application with, no, nothing that, we don't see anything that's of worry to us. That's provided somewhere
Yeah.
in the notes. But back in, it was, I'm gonna get the dates wrong, so I shouldn't say them on the record, but a while ago, this project started moving forward, and that foundation was found. And, or I apologize, MHPC asked us to do a phase 1 survey, that foundation was found. And the professional said basically observe a buffer to it, or as an alternative, we can do a bunch of digging and see what we find and see if there's nothing there. And so that's basically been optioned. So that's why these, we think that the optimum building spot for these is up front anyway, but this is a reflection of that.
So they went specifically for the buffer, just to,
Yeah, we just, yeah.
so in case they ran into something that would be like a whole project.
Right.
Yeah,
Oh, okay. I can see that now.
yeah.
It'd be great for some 10-year-old to go explore though.
These would go
Good
to
time.
the metal
Cool, yeah.
detector.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I haven't dug that one.
Becky, are you all set with paper and records and,
I believe so, I've already started the finding facts from this one. And I plan to start the finding facts from the next one, in the next coming days.
Joe?
Next week.
Joel, you are?
I'm good, yeah,
You
I'll
good
wait,
with
that, the only one that I wanna see that really pertains to me, but personally, will be items number 13 and 14.
Okay. Meredith, any questions, comments?
No.
You're comfortable? Okay. Rob?
I'm all set.
Gooch? That was a good question there. Got any other good ones to throw out?
No, it just keeps bugging me about these large retention ponds that the owner of lot 6 has to pay for.
Well, no, the retention pond's gonna be put in by the applicant.
Right.
Oh, they are?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
That's the part of that's part of the required improvements.
Okay.
And the conditional agreement in lieu of a performance guarantee will require that those be installed and inspected prior to the conveyance of any lot.
So I'm assuming that, so those 2 retention ponds, like the easement will probably come from the road because of the fact that it's right next to it?
Well, one is,
No.
one.
Right here, yeah, and this one here would have to have an access up in the back.
Right, they're gonna,
Yeah,
they're gonna
the
connect the two easements
Yeah,
together.
we talked about extending this easement to get, to
Right.
connect to the stormwater pond easement for maintenance, and I think that was a smart comment by
And-
Gold Pond.
The upper retention pond, it spills into that wetland. And does it really like roll off the lot at that point?
Oh, are we creating a nuisance to the property owners southerly on Deer Run?
I don't think so. This is something that we as engineers will look at, because it is, you know, it's both written into your stormwater rules that we not create a, you know, a nuisance downstream. It's also part of our ethical charge. And we have basically an existing drainage pattern where a lot of this site following the ridge line here is bold and comes in the direction of this wetland. So this is the natural water course.
So it's always been that way, it's just not
Right.
gonna retention pond it.
So we're gonna improve that drainage situation and then discharge that to the wetland where we want it to go, because that's part of the natural drainage course anyway.
Okay.
Okay.
Bruce, got anything else?
Just
Rick, any last questions before we table this application?
No, I appreciate the thoughtful discussion with the board, and I have my marching orders.
March on.
All right.
All right, application 25-285 is tabled. Pending public hearing and further discussion on the 16th of April.
Well, are you guys hoping to talk about all the conditions of approval at the next meeting?
And, no, it's on the 16th, after the public hearing.
Oh, okay.
So unless there is new material that comes to the board's attention for the April 2nd meeting, there will be nothing to discuss about this
About this
application on
application.
the
Yeah, no, I
2nd
just
of April.
wrote it in my minutes wrong, but for the next meeting.
However, we will be here on the 2nd of April, should you need to indulge us with,
Understood. And I will also be here.
you will probably be here indulging us with something else.
Right. We're kind of playing hopscotch right now. with
All
meetings.
right, Joel, do we have anything for application 25-286 Timberline TH2? look
Nothing,
at,
nothing was
discuss?
submitted, no.
Nothing was submitted, okay. And my understanding is that that will be,
We're, fingers are crossed, huh? Yeah, I'll keep you posted.
okay.
Mine too.
All right. My agenda.
There is no new business.
Okay, reports,
The CEO will not be present for either May meeting.
either.
Either.
Either a whole month off?
Style. I'm working limited amount of days that month.
okay. I'm
There-
trying to get it that her time off request go through the planning board.
Not a chance. There will be a public hearing on some ordinances, just to let the board know. Vacation rental ordinance, driveway entrance ordinance, and land use building code ordinance.
Do we have dates?
We do, April 1.
April 1 at,
Yeah,
at
at
6 o'clock,
6
at 6
p.m.
o'clock, at
Yeah.
6 o'clock, following the
Yeah.
select board meeting.
Yeah,
Tuesday, April 1.
yes, it'll be here.
So, what are we calling it, a what?
There's a public hearing, and there are 3 ordinances that are being reviewed for inclusion on the town warrant. The first one is vacation, not necessarily in the order that they will be presented, but the vacation rental ordinance, which we had a public work session in late February.
Yep.
There is a driveway entrance ordinance, which has a very interesting history, which I will not jump into.
Let's not go there tonight.
Which I would encourage that you get copies electronically from Joel.
Everything's on the website,
To read.
right on the front page of our website. It says public hearing and all three ordinances are right there for you.
And Joel's doing some updates to the land use and building permit
Yep, ordinance.
ordinance, of which probably the most interesting one to me about is the permit required prior to clearing lots.
Yes.
Newry website for public hearing information.
Where is this?
It'll be here,
Here.
to be held following the select board meeting that starts at 5 o'clock.
Come early, get your seat.
1st April.
So where do you think Charlie Bean's gonna sit?
I hope he comes. Steve White,
Yeah.
Bobby Lowell, yeah, they'll all be right in front.
I had a meeting today along with the town administrator and Joel with, this is open discussion, with Dana Bullen, president of the Sunday River Skiway. The topic being private roads. And I specifically was looking for Sunday River's take on how the planning board deals with subdivisions that are accessed over a private road owned by a third party. And so we discussed that a bit. I think Joel talked a little bit about permit.
I can't issue a building permit unless the lot is deemed accessible. Lots can't be created unless they have, you know, a certain amount of road frontage and they are accessible, huh?
Is
So,
that like ROWs then?
well, right of ways, or even in this case, the, you know, private roads owned by a third party entity, and our ordinance doesn't cover it, and where does our review start when it comes to those types of things, so.
And I am comfortable talking about this right now because we have the agent for both
Right.
open applications
Yep.
in front of us. So you don't zone out on this yet.
Yeah, you had my attention.
You're hearing this, right?
All right.
I mean, there's nothing concrete about what was said by the town or Sunday River today. It's just, we're trying to figure out and this came to light with my driveway entrance ordinance. Do I issue permits for private roads? You know, how do I issue a building permit if I don't know it's accessible? I mean, there's a lot of questions around this subject, so trying to work through that.
Right, because that would come back and bite you if you issued a permit and then all of a sudden, some
It-
legality reason
If you've
that,
given a butter or the private road owner reason to appeal my decision of issuing a building permit, certainly.
So shouldn't there be something in the homeowner's deed that says, I can use this road?
I can pretend to be an attorney and say yes. But
Well,
that's not up to us. Is this part of the board's review? Show me it in my ordinance.
Yeah, I keep forgetting that the first line of being a code enforcement officer is, you're not a lawyer, you are not an engineer.
I don't have the right initials behind my name, that's right.
Yep.
So, anyway,
But-
it's discussion.
But one thing that is in the ordinance as a performance standard is traffic.
Mhm.
And probably for discussion or contemplation is not only traffic within a proposed subdivision, but traffic on the principal access to the subdivision.
All the way off Route 2, yes.
But at least to the Newry town line.
Yes, yes.
and we have, kind of had this discussion before.
And there are definitions of road standards in the UDRO, neighborhood road, secondary road, primary road. It would behoove us to go into section 24 definitions and to read and get comfortable with those.
But doesn't that provide for where that jurisdiction lies within that substandard, or the standard of the road?
Go, listen to Ted, go read section 24 definitions and then section 15.
Yeah, there are some potential issues on a review that need to be considered. Here's a hypothetical. You have a third-party private road that services more than 200 residential lots. So by definition in the ordinance, the access to that new subdivision needs to be on a primary road. In other words, once a secondary road, you could argue that a secondary road can actually reach its limit towards the number of lots it services.
Which I think is 60.
No, it's
Secondary is 200,
It's 200.
secondary is 200.
neighborhood is
Secondary
60.
Yeah.
No, neighborhood's 60, okay.
And a neighborhood road can only be within the subdivision. Whereas the road that services a subdivision needs to be at minimum a secondary road, if not a primary road. So if you have a subdivision that is being proposed at the end of a private road that is owned by a third party, and the number of lots in that subdivision will push the threshold of from a secondary to a primary road, then the board should consider that fact.
Joe?
Things to chew on, and comprehensive plan is coming up, review for this town. I mean, this opens up a wide variety of things to think about when it comes to our private roads,
There's more ordinance stuff.
possibly.
So that was an interesting discussion that we had. And to say the least, Sunday River seems to be very much aware of this, at least for the last couple of weeks anyway.
So all the town roads that aren't private are all primary roads.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
No?
Not necessarily. So you could, let's take another hypothetical, and a major subdivision is gonna be put in, butting up against the Newry Riley town line,
Or out by the letter S.
out beyond the letter S,
Right.
beyond the paved road.
So beyond the, oh, that's right, that's not even paved.
No.
So if a major subdivision was gonna go, well, first of all, I have not counted the lots serviced by Sunday River Road from the intersection with Monkey Brook.
I haven't either.
Well, Nahama's what, 12?
This is just
This is
a
a
hypothetical.
just a
No, but I'm saying, just to give you a perspective.
Nahama is 10.
Yeah,
10,
Hunter's 10, Nordic's probably 10,
No, Nordic is
Nordic
more
more than that.
more
Is
than
it?
that.
Yeah,
Ragged is 4.
But
okay.
you also have Powder Ridge,
Mm-hmm.
which is huge, and you have Douglas, not Douglas, Baker Street. They got Sunny, you got all the Baker Acres 1, 2, and 3, you got the Sunnyside
Yeah, mansion,
Mansion.
yeah.
So if Sunday River Road is a secondary road and a major subdivision wants to go in nestled up against the Riley Newry town line, and this major subdivision is gonna be 30 lots. Then now, the question is not the owner of the private road, because there isn't a private road. It would be, is the town gonna be required to bring that road up to
our standards.
the primary road standard?
Well, let's even be more hypothetical. Let's say the subdivision is large and it's in Riley, not Newry.
That even
That's
complicates
county,
it,
though, right?
that complicates it more, because now you have, Riley would be the land use commission that would review that one. And, the primary access would be through Sunday River Road. Would the Newry be required to bring their road up to, their town road up to primary standards in order to
Accommodate an unorganized
accommodate
territory.
a subdivision going in the adjoining township?
So it doesn't, as long as it doesn't make any difference about the size of the subdivision, as long as it's a major subdivision?
No,
No,
I mean,
it's a matter of the amount of lots handled by Sunday River Road.
it's the saturation of
So
lots.
hypothetically,
Problem.
hypothetically,
What's that?
200 lot subdivision on the, off of the Sunday River Road.
Mm-hmm.
That would, that's a large number of lots.
Mm-hmm.
So that would,
But it's the saturation of lots on that the road services. So in the case of Sunday River Road, it actually goes all the way back to where the state aid road stops.
Right.
And that would be at the intersection of Sunday River and Skiway. And so then you start your lot count from that point,
It's well over the
and,
threshold
and,
now.
and it's well over the threshold.
Mm.
The question is, which has any portion of Sunday
Because
River
that-
Road?
That section would include what's going on up the Monkey Road. You haven't turned that.
so it's that whole area.
Let's hear from the engineer in the room.
Are your ears burning yet?
So even that section's not primary road?
Which section?
Like from
From
the
Skiway to
intersection
Monkey
of
Brook?
Skiway, yeah.
Don't know.
We
We don't know.
We don't know.
So we have the definitions, but we don't know which roads are.
We
Then
don't know
who-
what
then
they
who
were ever
defines
built.
it?
Those roads, Sunday River Road was built in 1805. I'm gonna say it's probably not built to
Right.
primary standards.
Right, but
Bruce's
can you like,
question, who's
to measure it?
defines that?
We would have to, yeah, it would be defined by width.
Oh, yeah,
and
well,
survey.
that's the
Shoulder, all that
that's the other restriction on the secondary road. It can't be longer than 1,500 feet, 15,000 feet.
So who determines the standard then?
You guys
It's in the UDR.
It's in the UDRO.
It's your town.
But we don't know if it's primary or,
You were going to say
Sunday
something?
River Road
Yeah, let's
primary
hear
road.
from the engineer.
He's smirking over there.
No, it's all really good discussion, and I'm smirking just because it's not an easy answer, I don't think, but, I would suggest that perhaps the board look at the private road and the public road differently, and you might get an opinion from the town's attorney on the public road side of things, because there's a significant amount of precedent on that. On how, obviously other towns have treated this. Maybe on the private side as well.
There are two issues there that you point out, and quite rightfully so. You got the town road issue, which involves the town,
Mhm.
and the other issue is a private road.
Right. And I suspect there's gonna be two different precedents and sets of laws that govern them, because one is gonna be under the municipal statute side of things, and then the other is having more to do with
The,
Not like with any Sunday River add-on or anything like that, but just, would the town hold a private road up to standards that it's not gonna meet itself on its own road?
By law,
By
that's
law?
probably allowed, sadly.
Yeah.
I think that's what Rick's getting at. We should check with our attorney because municipal law may protect us. It would be maybe possibly a different requirement for a private road owner. I don't know that. We would have to check.
There are a lot of,
There's a lot of moving parts
There's a lot
here.
of loose ends or, you know, that can be pulled, depending which way you wanna pull and what you feel like doing that day.
So would gradient come under this whole umbrella?
absolutely.
Yeah,
So like maybe going back to 12 instead of 15?
possibly.
That was gonna be my example on the public side of things too, because like in, say, our, you know, the town that our office is in, Livermore Falls.
You
I don't
guys are
think
all
I
one
can-
big hill.
Right, you know, you're familiar.
Yeah.
I mean, I shouldn't, I think by their regulations, I don't think I can design a road that's steeper, or a private road that's steeper than 10%, if I'm remembering right. But there's several existing public roads there that are,
Yeah.
gotta say, almost 20.
Mhm.
Because they're, you know, there was,
They were
what
there
they did back
they
then,
were there
you just,
Right.
you white knuckle it and hope you don't slide up.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Existing
even here
non-conforming.
with
Yeah.
15%, you know, sections, it's just, it's,
In the archives of W.H.A.T in Augusta, they have extensive archives of almost every road in the state. And you'll look at their map and there's this little arc, and you'll go to the records and you'll find this piece of paper and you'll hold it up. And it matches that arc and it'll tell you what page and book and all that other stuff. You can go find out exactly what that road was, when it was set up, how wide it is, here's the boundaries, here's where it went, here's who owned on each side, all these other wonderful things. But I don't know if it's still there or not. This was 25 or 30 years ago, and I spent the afternoon there.
So,
Yep.
if you need a break from reviewing performance standards and criteria of approval, wander on over to section 14 of the UDRO, which is roads, and down to section 24 definitions of primary, secondary neighborhood road. And that will be raising its head at some point.
That's you.
Any other discussion items that people would like to?
I just want, this has been at my house for a long time, so I'm gonna either leave it here for you guys to shred, or you guys to file, I don't know. But it's for applications that came before us a long time ago, but never, they got tabled and never
Okay,
brought
why
back.
don't I review those? Thanks. Oh, yeah, definitely, yeah, okay.
Okay. I'd like to thank everybody for their attention and indulgence, and taking the time to prepare and execute our ordinance.
Thank you for staying and listening.
That's interesting.
Our next meeting is scheduled for April 2nd, but before that, on April 1st, please think about coming to the public hearing for the town ordinances. That will be at 6 o'clock in this room on Tuesday. Bring your sleeping bag, you can sleep over because
Yep.
we'll be here at 6 o'clock on
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
John, Loretta has an extra bedroom, just camp out.
we can always get out in the cave down the basement there, yeah. It's enough cots.
Without any further ado,
That's true.
There you go, we'll have a party at your house, Gooch.
Well, the water's not on.
Are we
It's
adjourning?
melt snow, right?
trying.
Oh, yeah, we're adjourning. Let's vote.
May I have a motion, please, to adjourn the
I
meeting?
make a motion that we adjourn the planning board meeting of, what's today, March 19th, Wednesday.
And we'll adjourn it on the 2nd of April.
Yeah, but right now I need you to second it.
I'll second it.
On the 19th.
This one.
Okay.
It's been moved and properly seconded that we adjourn this meeting of the planning board and reconvene in the same location on the 2nd of April at 6 o'clock. All those in favor? 1,
2,
3. The adjournment
the
was
motion
unanimous.
carries, and there we go.
Thank
Thanks,
you
Rick.
all.
Thank you.